Hare Krishna, welcome to everyone to our classes on Srimad Bhagavatam. Last time, I think last to last Sunday, we started this course. We had our class 1, and in the opening class, we had discussed about uniqueness of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we gave you 4 non-devotional reasons. We will review the class in a short while from now. Today is our second class, and today we will start directly dealing with the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, starting from Canto number 1, chapter number 1. And our plan is to cover first 3 verses in today's class. Like before, I will start this class also with a short kirtan. I would request devotees to mute the microphone at their end so that there is least disturbance to the class. You can sing the kirtan together with me at your respective places, but keep the microphone muted. जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदनंदन जय ब्रज जनरंजन जय यशोदनंदन जयो ब्रज जनरंजन जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय राधा माधव राधे जय राधा माधव राधे जय जगन्नाथ बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय जगन्नाथ बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जयो प्रहलाद महाराज, जयो प्रहलाद महाराज, प्रहलाद महाराज, जयो प्रहलाद महाराज। हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल। जयो जयो प्रभुपाद, 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 जयो जयो प्रभुपाद। जयो जयो गुरुदेव, 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 जयो जयो गुरुदेव, जयो जयो गुरुदेव, 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 जयो जयो गुरुदेव। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण जी।
Dandavat.
हरे कृष्ण, धन्यवाद। We will be reciting these prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Once again, a very warm welcome to all the devotees to our class on Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a deep study course on Srimad Bhagavatam. This is our second class, and before entering into the subject matter of second class, we will quickly do a recap of the previous class, class number 1. In this class, we had discussed some of the unique aspects of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we gave 4 non-devotional reasons why Srimad Bhagavatam is a unique literature. There are many devotional reasons, but we decided to restrict ourselves to non-devotional reasons, primarily because to establish this point that even for those people who does not have deep faith in Srimad Bhagavatam, if they consider Srimad Bhagavatam unique for certain reasons, if we as devotees can understand those reasons, it will actually help us deepen our own faith in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, before we discussed 4 non-devotional reasons for Srimad Bhagavatam, we first of all had a small glimpse on how deeply Srimad Bhagavatam has impacted Indian culture. And that impact we kind of saw among 4 various aspects of life. One is literature, another one is dance, then music, and then architecture. So, impact on literature, we understood that Srimad Bhagavatam actually had at almost 90 commentaries available in Sanskrit, and no other book, even Ramayana or Mahabharata, have had as many commentaries like that. Also, we saw that there are many derivative literature that has emerged over the years for past so many years, which are actually based upon Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we call derivative literature, it means those works, those literary works, which are actually based upon the original work, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. And we gave this example, like we have Valmiki Ramayana, which is written in Sanskrit, that is the original work by Valmiki Muni. And based on this original Sanskrit work, there have been a derivative work which is known as Ramcharit Manas. So Ramcharit Manas is written in local vernacular language in Hindi, or to be particular in Awadhi. And actually, if you go to North India, you will find that Ramcharit Manas is even more popular than Srimad Valmiki Ramayana. It is mainly because it is written in the local language and it connects very quickly with the local people of the region. Similarly, for Srimad Bhagavatam, we find that there have been lots of local work that have been written, and we discussed several examples in our previous class. We also discussed that how Srimad Bhagavatam has impacted the culture of reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam in the form of stories, in the form of kathas, uh, is specifically very popular in north of India. And it is so popular that one famous book is written on this subject matter, which is known as 7 Days of Nectar. Similarly, we saw that how the stories of Bhagavatam, the subject matter of Bhagavatam, has impacted various forms of Indian classical dance, like, for example, Kuchipudi, Manipuri, Kathak, Odissi, etc. And it has even impacted the drama styles of, specifically, we see this in north of India, parts of Mathura, Brajmandal, etc., where Ras Leela is played in a very dramatic form. We also saw how Srimad Bhagavatam has impacted the architecture of various temples. And one famous temple, which is the Perumal temple in Kanchipuram, uh, a very elaborate book has been written on this subject, titled as The Body of God. In this book, the author has elaborately described how every room of that temple, how every floor and every level of that temple actually uh, mentions the stories from Srimad Bhagavatam's Canto 1, Canto 2, Canto 3, like that. Even we saw pictures of one of the very ancient Vishnu temples in Cambodia, Angkor Wat, where on the walls everywhere you can see the depictions of Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, after the last class, I had also shared on WhatsApp group a picture from Swarnabhumi Airport in Thailand, which depicts a very elaborate and a very beautiful, colorful mural of the Samudra Manthan Leela, which is mentioned or narrated in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, like that, we can see from these examples that how Srimad Bhagavatam has had a very deep impact on the Indian culture. Then, in the second part of the class, we discussed how Srimad Bhagavatam is unique, and we discussed four non devotional reasons. So, that was the actual subject matter of our previous class, and we discussed four various aspects. The first one was the language of Srimad Bhagavatam. We mentioned that language of Srimad Bhagavatam is Vedic Sanskrit. Vedic Sanskrit is difficult from classical Sanskrit. Classical Sanskrit is easy to learn. Even in 2 years of dedicated study, one can become very learned in the knowledge of classical Sanskrit. However, Vedic Sanskrit is very different. That is the Sanskrit that is actually used in the Vedas. In fact, there is a saying in Sanskrit which is known as Vidya Bhagavata Avadhi. So, Vidya Bhagavata Avadhi means that test of your Sanskrit knowledge is actually Srimad Bhagavatam. If you can understand the Sanskrit mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, then you are known as Vidya Bhagavata Avadhi. That means the best knower of the Sanskrit language. And we discussed how the language of Bhagavatam is not only Vedic, but the content that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam actually closely matches with the content that we see in the Vedas. And we learned that with several examples, like the story of Pururava and Urvashi, as it is mentioned in Rig Veda, but when it is narrated again in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is very closely connected. The details mentioned in that Rig Veda story as well as in Srimad Bhagavatam, they are actually very close. In other Puranas also the same story appears, but it is there are more differences in the story compared to the Vedas. So we kind of try to establish this fact that the language used in Srimad Bhagavatam is very different, unique as compared to the other Vedic literature, other Vedic texts. Not only in terms of content, it matches the Vedas, but also in its character, like in its language, it is close to the Vedas. Then we discussed our second point, which is the subject matter of Bhagavatam is mentioned in many manuscripts. Manuscripts means the original writings that we see on palm leaves or on some other material, and these manuscripts have been kept in various museums in the country. And a close study of these manuscripts mentions that the manuscript history of Srimad Bhagavatam is very consistent. So I was explaining to you in the previous class that how in the older times there were no printing presses, and if one has to produce a book, it has to be uh, handwritten. Somebody has to commission a scriber who would actually note down the content of the book from the previous manuscript to the new manuscript. And in doing so, there are various types of mistakes that are done. And uh, we find that we gave you the example of Mahabharat, that how in Mahabharat there are various manuscripts available, and these manuscripts differ from each other in varying degrees. And there are a lot of differences in various manuscripts. So we then discussed about what is critical edition. So critical edition is that edition of the book which is prepared after comparing the various manuscripts. Very critically, these are evaluated, and after evaluating these various manuscripts critically, it is decided that this content appears to be original, and that content actually goes into the critical edition. Similarly, uh, it was done for Mahabharat, and similarly, it was done for Srimad Bhagavatam. It was done by some scholars in Ahmedabad, and it was found that the manuscript that was a critical edition that was prepared after going through all the manuscripts for Srimad Bhagavatam, it had very few mistakes. And even if there were some corrections that were done, the meaning of the word actually remained the same. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, unlike other Vedic literature, has a very strong manuscript history. It has very few corrections. So, we can be rest assured that what content we are going to study is actually the original content that was written by Srila Vyasadeva. Then the other point was about the poetry, the quality of poetry of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we discussed that how various types of books, various types of Vedic literature have a different style of teaching. Like Vedas teach like a guru, like an order. The tone is like an order. Then Puranas teach like a friend, like suggestion. Yeah? And then uh, uh, there are books, poetry actually teaches like a lover. Like a lover means the message is passed on so in such a subtle manner that the person who receives that message, that learning, actually uh, actually starts believing that the message actually belongs to him, the idea actually belongs to him. So Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned about Srimad Bhagavatam that it teaches like all three: Guru, friend, and lover. Yeah? So Vedas teach like Guru, Puranas teach like friend, and poetry teaches like a lover. And we see that Srimad Bhagavatam is a remarkable book of poetry. It's an excellent book which mentions poetry in its one of the most exalted forms. And we discussed how in the opening verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, the meter used is a very complex meter known as Shardul Vikriditam, 17 syllable long. Typically, the meter used in Srimad Bhagavad Gita or Ramayana, etc., is Anushtup, which is only 8 syllable long. Huh? And we see that the meanings that are used of the language in Srimad Bhagavatam, some of the word meanings appear only in Srimad Bhagavatam, the Sanskrit word, and some of the words that are used in Srimad Bhagavatam in Sanskrit in a particular meaning, and that particular meaning appears only in Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that, we discuss various aspects like that. And not only in typical other books, Vedic books like Puranas, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, uh, only very few meters have been used, like Anushtup or Trishtup. Only two type of meters are used. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are I think many more, like 6, 7 easily. I can recall the type of meters that have been used in Srimad Bhagavatam, and these meters change continuously as the mood, as the flow of the story that has been narrated in Srimad Bhagavatam, it changes. The meter also changes. It is mainly to highlight the impact of the narration that is going on. So the quality of poetry is top class, and I gave you various references of various scholars who have uh, studied Srimad Bhagavatam, and when they have come across Srimad Bhagavatam, they have actually also confirmed the quality of poetry that has been used in this book. And last point that we discussed was the structure of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I mentioned that it is a very, very structured book, unlike Puranas, which in which the thought flow is very sometimes very random. It jumps from one topic to another topic, not in a very coherent way. However, in Srimad Bhagavatam, when we see the discussion going on, the question answers are very, very structured. And when one question is asked, the speaker responds to that question. It may take number of chapters to respond to that question, but when the question is answered, the speaker mentions that you asked this question to me and I have completed my answer. Now we can take up the next topic or next question. Like that, it is a very structured book, and it is very useful and very favorable to do a study of Srimad Bhagavatam in a systematic setting like this, where we will study it from Canto 1, Chapter 1, and like that we will go on developing the subject matter. Excuse me. Okay, now coming to the subject matter of this class. Since this is our first class of dealing with the actual subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the previous class we just gave a curtain raiser what how it is unique. I will briefly update you about some of the books that we will be using for reference for study, and then we will spend some time to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam, the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, how it is very, very nice, it is very, very exalted. And we will quote various authorities and look at it from various viewpoints to understand even more deeply the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then I will briefly give you in one slide how chapter 1 of Canto 1, how it is structured. It is not very complicated, it is very simple. But let us spend some time to understand that structure. And then we will discuss first 3 shlokas of this chapter number 1. So also I would like to introduce myself to some of the devotees who are joining us in this class for the very first time. So my name is Keshav Gopal Das. My legal name is Anurag Gupta. So you might see sometimes both the names appearing on the screen as we do these classes. But most of the time I will like to speak as with my initiated name, that is Keshav Gopal Das. I am the initiated disciple of my beloved spiritual master, His Holiness Srila Indradyumna Swami. I received this initiation roughly, I think, 12 years ago. And I have been connected to this movement of ISKCON, Krishna consciousness or Sankirtan movement, for last, I would say, 19 years. And all these years, I have been very fond of studying Vedic texts like Srimad Bhagavad Gita and other books. And we have been also involved in the preaching activities of this subject matter. So as I became more and more convinced in the subject matter, I became more and more convinced that the Vedic way of life, as described in the books like Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Valmiki Ramayana, etc., is something which gives an individual a complete perspective of what actually life is. And since I found it beneficial for my own life, I thought of sharing this very beautiful knowledge with others, other people. And that's how I started my preaching endeavor several years ago. And in this preaching endeavor, this is another attempt to explain Srimad Bhagavatam in the form of a deep study. And I'm very happy and grateful that many of these devotees I see on this class have actually are helping me to convey this message uh, further deeply, making me more confident in the message of Bhagavatam and other Vedic texts. So the way we will go on studying this book is we will do this in the form that there will be several lectures, several classes, sometimes five, six, sometimes the number of classes may increase to more than five or six. But after each of these four or five classes, we will take a pause. We will issue a quiz in the form of multiple choice questions. Sometimes we will also issue subjective type questions where only the question is there, there is no choice, and then you have to provide the description of the question. So we will do regularly these quizzes and question answer discussions. And after, there will be some time given to you, 1 week or 2 week. uh, it is not mandatory to attempt these questions or quizzes, you can do it without them also, but we will encourage you to take it because we call it mananam means absorbing the subject matter in your own mind by studying, by once again hearing the lectures, and then attempting to write the answer of these questions. That includes that increases the remembrance of the Lord in our mind. So as we do more mananam, more smaranam of the Lord, our heart becomes more purified, and the message of Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic texts become even more revealed to us. So we encourage you to take these quizzes, and as you take these quizzes, you will enforce the learning that you will have in these lectures, and then we continue our journey like that. So like that we will do this. You are always free to ask questions at the end of the class. You can also post your questions in the chat box, which we can take up at the end of the class. And even after the class also, you can WhatsApp, you can call us to discuss if you have any doubts. So that is a little briefing about my own introduction and how we are going to conduct this course. Now I move to the uh, what books are we going to use in this particular study. So practically we will be using, as a teacher, I will be using these four books for preparing my slides and understanding the subject matter and conveying the subject matter to you. Our primary book would be the Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So ISKCON's founder Acharya Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ji, uh, his books, his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, which is available in 12 cantos. These are total 18 books. So that will be our main textbook. That is the main textbook we will be using. Then, in order to study this textbook, Srimad Bhagavatam, there is also a study guide available. Like when we used to go to college, we will used to have a textbook, but textbook sometimes would be very limited in scope, and there will be in market some guidebooks, some reference books that are available where the same subject matter actually has been explained in a much more digestible manner, in a sometimes in a summary form, sometimes in a bullet point forms, which becomes reading the textbook very helpful, very easy. So we have a study guide available by the name Bhagavat Subodhini by His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. So that is another book. Then we have additional commentary available within our own parampara. That is by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he is the predecessor Acharya in our movement, much before Srila Prabhupada came and wrote his commentary. Another commentary by the name Sararth Darshani has available by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So this commentary primarily originally is written in Sanskrit, and Bhanu Maharaj, His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj, a sannyasi in our movement, ISKCON movement, has done English translation to this book. So this is also sometimes we will be referring from this book. It gives a lot of nectarian explanation about various chapters of various verses, different from how Srila Prabhupada has explained. So we would not like to miss that nectar also, and we will sometimes occasionally quote from Shila Sararth Darshani also. And then we will also try to refer for shloka memorization another book known as Bhagavat Ratnamala. This is also compiled by His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, the compiler of Bhagavat Subodhini, the study guide. Like this, these will be the four primary reference books, and a picture, a pictorial representation of this book you can see on the slide here. So here on the top left hand corner, you see Srimad Bhagavatam, which is available in 12 cantos. So 12 cantos are totally available in 18 volumes. 18 volumes is, these are 18 books. So correspondingly, for each of these cantos, there is Bhagavat Subodhini series available. I think Bhagavat Subodhini is still being written. It is available till 9th canto. But by the time we reach to that level, probably I think other three cantos will also be available. So Gaurang Darshan Prabhu is still working on 10th, 10th, 11th, and 12th canto of Bhagavat Subodhini. And then this is the additional reference book I was referring to, Sararth Darshani by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, as translated by His Holiness Bhanu Swami. And this is Bhagavat Ratnamala, which is the book for shloka memorization. So you need not become too intimidated by the large number of books that you see on the screen. As you will progress continuously on the subject matter, your interest, your liking, your affection for Srimad Bhagavatam will increase, and rely upon your affection, your attraction for Srimad Bhagavatam to progress to the next book. So if you don't develop it for some reasons, for whatever reasons, then naturally you may not like to continue with this class or whatever, but I'm sure the subject matter is so nectarian, so divine, that you will like to hear it more and more. And just to show you, so our immediate goal is primarily to complete Canto number 1. And this is the book, as I show you on my screen, is the Canto number 1, as commented by our founder Acharya Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And this is how the Subodhini series, Bhagavat Subodhini, looks like for Canto number 1 and Canto number 2. It's a book of roughly 284 pages, 285 pages, and this is a small book for shloka memorization. So if you see this book, the individual shlokas, the important shlokas from the book has been written, and very briefly a translation with word meanings have been given in the book, which is very useful to memorize shlokas. So these are the primary books that we will be using. In case you don't want to purchase all four of them, I would recommend to at least purchase the textbook so that you can refer to it as and when you study progresses. And in order to facilitate your study, I would also strongly recommend to go at least for this Bhagavat Subodhini. You may want to drop out on Srimad Bhagavatam Sararth Darshani. Maybe you find it, okay, additional reference is a little too much, at least for the time being. And as you develop more deeper understanding, you may naturally want to purchase it a little later. Bhagavat Ratnamala is a very small book, as I showed you. It's a very small book. You want to take it, or you want to directly learn these shlokas from the original book, that is up to you. Even if somebody is not willing to purchase the textbook also, for whatever reason, so the whole textbook is available on the website vedabase.com, and they can refer to the website Vedabase, where Srimad Bhagavatam, all 12 cantos are available free of cost. So it's up to you how you want to enter into it, and my job is mainly to enlighten you on what is available and how we can approach and progress in the subject matter. Now we will start a little bit on the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. So before we enter and start discussing verse number 1, we would like to know how Srimad Bhagavatam has been viewed and what opinion some very exalted personalities, actually God Himself, views Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the propounder of this Sankirtan movement 500 plus years ago at Sridham Mayapur in West Bengal of today. Uh, so Lord Chaitanya actually is none other than Lord Krishna himself. Is the Bhakt Avatar, is the devotee incarnation of the Lord who appeared as a in the form of a devotee. So Lord Chaitanya has mentioned his opinion through this Chaitanya Matta Manjusha commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Srinath Chakravarti. So Srila Srinath Chakravarti is mentioning the opinion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Matta Manjusha commentary. What he is writing? He's writing Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesh Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachida Upasana Brajabadhu Vargena Va Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhor Matamidam Tatradharana Para. So, here in this verse, we can understand what is the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And here you can see in this particular slide how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considers what are, in opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 5 items that are most important. So, as you see here in the slide, Aradhyo Bhagwan Vrajesh Tanyas. Aradhyo, who is the most worshipable Lord? Bhagwan, that is Vrajesh Tanyas. Vrajesh means the Lord of Vraja. The Lord of Vraja is who? Nanda Maharaj. And Vrajesh Tanyas means son of Lord of Vraja. That is son of Nanda Maharaj. That is Lord Krishna. So you can see in this slide who is the object of our worship. That is Lord Shri Krishna, son of Nanda. And then what is the Tadham Vrindavanam? Tadham Vrindavanam. So his abode, Vrindavan is actually the most transcendental abode. That is the most sought after place for the devotees. So what is the most sought after place? Dham, that is Vrindavan. And then Ramya Kachid Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Va Kalpita. So Vrajavadhu means gopis. Ramya Kachid Upasana. The most pleasurable form of worship is what? That which was performed by the Vrajavadhus, that is the gopis of Vrindavan. So Upasana, worship, that which is performed by Vraj gopis. And then Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam. So what is the most authoritative text to study? What is the most spotless text? What is the most pure text to be studied? And I will explain you in short while what is the meaning of pure text. What is the pure text? And that is Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Pramanam, the spotless authority, which does not have any other defect, that is called Srimad Bhagavatam. And the last one is Prema Pumartho Mahan. Prema Pumartho Mahan. What is the object of life? What is the goal of life? That is Artha means Prema Pumartho. Artho means what is the goal of life? That goal of life is actually Prema. Prema or pure love of God. So you can see how conclusively, how succinctly, how very briefly, very nicely in a poem, Srila Srinath Chakravarti in this very nice poem has explained the opinion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this opinion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we understand that what is the Pramanam Amalam, what is the spotless authority, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. And you will see that in this Srimad Bhagavatam, you will study all these 5 subject matters about Srimad Bhagavatam, about the object of worship, Sri Krishna, about his transcendental abode, that is Sridham Vrindavan. And then what is the most worshipable way to worship Lord Krishna? That is the worship done by the Vraj Gopis. We will study about this also. And the goal of life, what is the ultimate goal of life? That is prem or pure love of God. And you will see that the description of this verse is also seen on page number 199 of Bhagavad Subodhini. So Gaurang Darshan Prabhu has elaborated a little bit on this particular verse in this Srimad Bhagavad Subodhini. It is available on page 199. So you can refer to that explanation. Recently, we have completed our study on another very brilliant literature, Vedic literature, written by one of the very exalted Vaishnava acharyas, that is Srila Rupa Goswami. Our Sunday class previously, which we have started Srimad Bhagavatam from 12th of February, but before 12th of February, for previous 6 months, we were studying a deeper study on this book called Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu is known as the science of devotional service, science of bhakti. So like we study physics, we study chemistry, we study biology and various other scientific subjects like economics and so on, accounting and so on. So how bhakti is a science, how bhakti can be described in very precise and accurate words, in very accurate definitions, how various terminology related to bhakti can be described in precise definitions. We studied that in this book called Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And in this Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, we studied 64 limbs of how to perform bhakti. So we perform bhakti, for example, we do arati, we offer flowers, we hear Hari Katha, and we go to various holy places and so on and so forth. Like that, there are 64 items of bhakti, and that has been mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So after mentioning these 64 items, Srila Rupa Goswami actually have identified among these 64 items 5 topmost items to perform bhakti, and he is calling them as 5 most potent forms of bhakti. Most potent forms means most powerful forms of bhakti. So if we cannot focus on all the 64 limbs of bhakti, if we at least focus on these 5 most potent forms of bhakti, we can make rapid spiritual advancement in the science of bhakti. And these 5 most potent forms are, he's saying, Shri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevana, that is deity worship with devotion, with faith. If we serve the deities of the Lord, that is the one form. Then Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha means association with the devotees of the Lord. Then the third one is the Nam Kirtana. Nam Kirtan means chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So we can do it in the form of a japa, which is softly chanting the names. And we can also perform this in the form of a Kirtana, which is loudly chanting the names. So in the beginning of the class, we did this Kirtana. We chanted the holy names of the Lord. Then Mathura Vas. Mathura Vas means visiting holy places, holy dham of the Lord, like Mathura, Vrindavan, Dwarka, and so on. Then Bhagavad Shravana. So Bhagavad Shravana, which means, actually it is mentioned as Bhagavata Artho Artswada. Bhagavad Artho Aswada. Aswada means relishing. Artha means meaning. And then Bhagavata Artha means relishing the deeper meanings of each and every word, each and every syllable that has been mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, try to relish the meaning of each and every word. It is very, very nectarian. It is very relishing. And that is mentioned as one of the 5 most potent forms of bhakti. So we are going to enter into the relishing of each and every word, not each and every word, but primarily word of at least the most important shlokas of Bhagavatam, and at least cover every aspect, every nook and corner of Srimad Bhagavatam, maybe a little quickly, or touch upon that aspect of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are going to enter into this very beautiful, satisfying, nectarian study of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu identifies Bhagavad Shravana as one of the most potent forms of bhakti. Also, Srimad Bhagavatam is known as the crown jewel of all scriptures. It is known as Granth Raj. Granth means scripture. It is known as Granth Raj. It is the king of all scriptures. Why it is known as king of all scriptures? Because it presents the essence of all scriptures. Essence of all scriptures. So Srimad Bhagavatam was the last creation that was done by Srila Vyasadeva after compiling all the Vedic literature, all the Puranas, Itihasas, Rama, Mahabharat, and then Puranas, etc., etc., Vedanta Sutra, etc. Srila Vyasadeva actually compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. He wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. And before writing Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva actually has already written Vedanta Sutra. So Vedanta Sutra is the sutras which are small sutras, small aphorisms that is actually mentioned in a book called Vedanta Sutra. And this Vedanta Sutra is a summary of all the Vedic literature in the form of sutras, in the form of very small text, like Athato Brahma Jigyasa, Janmadyasya Yataha, Shastra Yonitvat, etc., etc. So very small, brief aphorisms, sutras have been written, which represents the summary, the essence of all the Vedic literature in a very small Vedanta Sutra. But these Vedanta Sutras are very difficult to understand. The logic used in these Vedanta Sutra is not easy to digest, easy to understand. So, in order to make this difficult job easy, Srila Vyasadeva himself has given Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam actually is the commentary on Vedanta Sutra itself. And it will be very visible when we will study the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, this is why it is king of all scriptures. It is the essence, and it is actually the commentary, the natural commentary. So, commentary typically is written by somebody else. So, if somebody has written a book, and somebody else may write a commentary on the other book, some other author. But Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary. And when we say natural commentary means Vedanta Sutra has been written by Srila Vyasadeva, and Srimad Bhagavatam is also written by Srila Vyasadeva, which is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So it is a natural commentary means the same author who has written the original book, Vedanta Sutra, has commented upon the same book in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is a natural commentary. Also, in this slide, you will see we will understand how Srimad Bhagavatam is no different than Lord Krishna himself. Actually, Srimad Bhagavatam has been compared by Lord Krishna's body, and this is the picture that you see in the slide, where Lord Krishna's body, starting from his lotus feet to his lotus face, and all the way going up to his head. Actually, all these cantos, you will see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So these 12 small pictures that you see in this picture are representative of these 12 cantos. And here in this verse, which appears in Padma Puran, it mentions that how Srimad Bhagavatam is none other than Krishna's body himself. And it says here in this particular beautiful verse of Padma Puran, Padau yadiyau prathama dvitiyau tritiya turiyau kathitau yaduru nabhistatha panchama eva shashtho bhujantaram dora yugalam tathanyau kantastu rajan navamo yadiyau mukharavindam dashamam prafullam ekadasho yasya lalatapattam shiropitu dwadasha eva bhati. Like that, in this verse you will see Padma Puran mentions that how Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna's body. So here, Padav yadiyo prathama dvitiyo. Padav means lotus feet of the Lord. So there are two lotus feet of the Lord, and each lotus feet of the Lord is compared to the Canto number 1 and Canto number 2. So lotus feet of the Lord are compared to Canto 1 and Canto 2. Padav Yadiyav Prathama. Prathama means first, and Dvitiyo means the second. So lotus feet is first and second canto. Then thighs. So there are two thighs. So each thigh represents one canto. Tritiya Turiyo Kathitau Yaduru. Tritiya Turiyo Kathitau Yaduru. So thighs are canto number 3 and 4. Then Nabhistatha Panchama. Nabhistatha Panchama. Nabhi means navel, the navel of the Lord. It is compared to the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So you will see that in fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a description of the creation. Creation means how the various planetary systems are there in this universe and how these planetary systems are arranged. And we understand that these planetary systems are arranged on the stem of the lotus, and this lotus appears from the navel of the Lord. So it's a very apt comparison. Comparing fifth canto to navel is very much related to the subject matter discussed in the fifth canto, where creation has been described. Creation means the various planetary system has been described. And then eva shashtho bhujantaram. So shashto bhujantaram means this is chest. So navel is 1, so which is fifth canto, and then chest is sixth canto. Then dor yugalam tathanyo. Bhujantaram dor yugalam tathanyo. Dor yugalam. Yugalam means two arms. So two arms have been compared to seventh and the eighth canto. Then kanthasthurajan navamo yadiyo. Navamo means ninth. Kanthas means the throat. So the throat has been compared to the ninth canto. Mukharavindam. Aravind means lotus. Mukh means the face. Mukharavindam dashama prafullam. Prafullam means very joyful. So Mukharavindam, the very joyful lotus face of the Lord, has been compared to the 10th canto. Then Ekadasho Yasya Lalat Pattam. Ekadash means the 11th. Lalat Pattam means the forehead. Shiro Pitu Dwadasha Eva Bhati. Dwadasha means Shiro. Shiro means head of the Lord. So like that, you will see that how Srimad Bhagavatam is no different than Lord Krishna's body, and has been mentioned very beautifully in the verse that appears in Padma Puran. Sorry. Now we will discuss a little bit about the different subject matter that has been discussed in the very first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And you will see there are in all 23 verses in the first chapter, and verse number 1 till verse number 3 is invocation and prelude. Prelude means an introduction. Before we enter into a book, you will see that the very first subject matter, the very first chapter of the book, the beginning of the book, tries to describe what is expected in the book. In the forthcoming chapters, what is expected, that is mainly described in the prelude, in the introduction. So when we are studying a book, we should very much study the book, the beginning of the book, very carefully, because in the beginning of the book, the larger understanding of the book is there. The bird's eye view, the viewing of the book from the top is explained very nicely, very elaborately. And like in all other Vedic literature, there is first of all an invocation. There is a meditation. There is a offering of meditation or offering of pranams to the Lord, who is the main subject matter of the book. So there is invocation, which is the verse number 1, and then in verse number 2 and 3, the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, the greatness of Bhagavatam, the sweetness of Bhagavatam is described. And then from verse number 4 to 8, the various sages that has gathered in the forest of Naimisharanya, they glorify the speaker that they have identified to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Suta Goswami. So they first of all glorify Suta Goswami, and in that glorification we can understand what is the qualification of the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, who is qualified to speak Srimad Bhagavatam. Then from verse number 9 to 23, we will see that the sages ask six important questions from Srila Suta Goswami, and we will study what are those six questions. So, this particular chapter, chapter 1, in first canto, has been titled by Srila Prabhupada as Questions by the Sages. And you can see the primary subject matter of this Srimad Bhagavatam's first chapter, first canto, is the six questions that the sages in Naimisharanya ask Suta Goswami. So, we will today elaborately discuss this first block of the first chapter, invocation and prelude. And why we are taking this elaborate uh, time or only discussing these three verses, because they are very important for the reader of Srimad Bhagavatam, that how the author of Srimad Bhagavatam opens up this subject matter, and in what way the author opens this subject matter is very important to understand. Okay, so now we will move to the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and I gave you a little idea of this very first verse in my previous class, where I mentioned that Bhagavatam is an excellent work of poetry, and that is very much evident from the very first verse that we are going to study now. And I mentioned that the meter used in this verse is Shardul Vikriditam. Shardul means lion, and Vikriditam means playful. So Shardul Vikriditam means the play of a lion. When the lion is actually in a good mood and it is in a playful mood, it moves, it jumps here and there, and it is very elegant. It is very royal, and you will see when I will narrate and when I will recite this verse, you will experience that. It is 17 syllables long. It is 17 syllables long, and how do we identify these 17 syllables? So we can identify these 17 syllables by understanding a very simple formula. Probably it will not be easy for us to identify these 17 syllables when it is written in an English script like I am showing you in this particular screen. But if you read the Hindi script, the Devanagari script, so mostly the devotees who are coming to this class, I would assume that they know Devanagari script. And in the Devanagari script, there are syllables which are full syllable and which are half syllable. So when you see a full syllable in this verse in Devanagari script, that is one syllable. And when you see the half syllable, that is not counted as any syllable. So you simply count the full syllable that are mentioned in the Devanagari script, and when you count them, you will see that there are 17 syllables in each of these lines of Srimad Bhagavatam. So ignore the half syllables and then only count the full syllables, and you will know where are the 17 syllables. After 10 syllable, there is a brief pause when we are reciting these verses. After 10th syllable, there is a brief pause, and this is technically known as yati. There is a brief pause, and then the rest of the 7 syllables are recited. So the way I have listed these this verse in this slide, so Janmadhyasya yato anvayat itaratas. So this is 10 syllable, and then Chartheshva abhigya swarar. These are 7 syllables. Like that, 10 syllable plus 7 syllable, 10 syllable plus 7 syllable, 10 syllable plus 7 syllable, like that, 17 times 4. 17 times 4. So these are the total number of syllables in this particular verse number 1. So before the verse, there is a prayer that has been done to Lord Sri Krishna, which is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya yato vanvayadi taratas Chartheshva bhigya swarat तेने ब्रह्म हृदयादि कवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरया तेजो वारि मृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि. So like that you will see that Janmadhyasya yato vanvayaditarata. So there is a brief pause. Charatheshvabhigya swarat. Like that, you can learn this melody of reciting this verse which is in Shardul Vikriditam. So you will see as we continue to study Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse, this meter Shardul Vikriditam will appear several places. The next verse, the second verse is also in Shardul Vikriditam. So, uh, so you can identify Shardul Vikriditam by counting the number of syllables. So if it is 17, it is Shardul Vikriditam. And identify till 10th syllable, you will know that this is the point where I have to stop for a while, and then you will recite the rest seven syllables. Like that, you can understand how to recite these various shlokas that appear in Srimad Bhagavatam, which are very beautiful form of poetry, and you can relish Srimad Bhagavatam even more by reciting these verses, because we also will give focus on remembering these verses as we continue to progress in our course. Now we will see that I have color coded the Sanskrit verse that you see on your screen in various colors. So Janmadhyasya yato Anvayat itartaschartheshva abhigya, then Swarat, then Tene Brahma Hridayadi Kavye Muhyanti Yat Surya. Like that, I have divided this verse into several sections, and we will study each of these sections actually in the coming slide. But before we move to the coming slide, the next slide, I will like to mention to you that what Srila Vyasdev is doing in this particular verse. In this particular verse, is first of all praying to Lord Sri Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Now, what is Vasudevaya? Vasudev is the name of Lord Krishna. And how Lord Krishna is getting this name, Vasudev? He is getting this name because he is son of Vasudev. So, because he is son of Vasudev, he is being mentioned here as Vasudev. And here Lord Krishna is being prayed. He is being offered obeisances by the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasdev. He is saying, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So any Vedic literature, any Vedic mantra, it starts from the word Om, so which is very Vedic in nature, as I mentioned to you in my previous class also. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So why Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya? Because Bhagavan Vasudev, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, is actually the main subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. You see, Srimad Bhagavatam has 335 chapters all across the 12 cantos. 335 chapters. And among these 335 chapters, you will see 90 chapters are there in 10th canto alone. 90 chapters in 10th canto alone. And in 11th canto, which have 31 chapters, which is also the words of Sri Krishna. In 11th canto, Lord Sri Krishna speaks to Uddhava, which is also known as Uddhava Gita. So 90 plus 31, which is how much? 121 chapters. So among 335 chapters, 121 chapters alone are based primarily on Lord Sri Krishna. And among other chapters also in Srimad Bhagavatam, you will see Lord Sri Krishna will appear often. Lord Sri Krishna will appear often. If he doesn't directly appear often, he will appear either in the form of his incarnations or in the form of his description or mention of Lord Krishna in various other chapters. So you will see primarily in 335 chapters, the main subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam is Lord Shri Krishna, and how Lord Shri Krishna has been described in this very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very important to understand for us as the student of Srimad Bhagavatam. Shri Krishna has been described in this very opening verse of Srimad Bhagavatam as absolute truth. As absolute truth. Now, this word absolute truth is very important to understand. So, there are two type of truths. Truth means reality. There are two type of truths. One truth is absolute and the other truth is relative. So what do you mean by absolute truth? Absolute truth means which is independent, which does not depend on any other truth, which is complete in itself, which is not which is complete knowing of itself, which has complete knowledge, which is completely independent, uh, which is not dependent on any other reality. That is known as absolute truth. However, on the other hand, there is another truth called relative truth. Relative truth means which is dependent on another truth, which is dependent on another truth. So, example of relative truth is we the living entities. We the living entities. How are we relative truths? Our existence actually depends upon some other living entity or some other cause, some other factor. Like for example, uh, we as living entity has taken birth. So how have we taken birth? Our birth actually is dependent on our parents. So when our parents actually came together, uh, they united, they gave birth to a living entity, a new living entity. So that is what is meant by living entity dependent on another living entity for his existence. Similarly, even for second by second existence, we are dependent on others. For example, we are living right now because we are breathing. For breathing, we are breathing air around us. Now, who has created this air? We have not created this air. This air has been created by somebody else. And who that somebody else is? That somebody else is absolute truth. That is the absolute truth. Who has created everything? So our existence dependent on others, our birth is dependent on others. Like this, our whole being is dependent on others. That is actually meant as relative truth. But absolute truth, who is the absolute truth? That absolute truth is being prayed in this very first verse. That is the invocation. And that absolute truth is none other than Lord Shri Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And then, since he is the absolute truth, then in this particular verse, the definition of absolute truth is given in various ways. Janma yasya yato anvayadi tarataschartheshva abhigya swarat tene brahma hridayadi kavaye. Like that, there are various ways the absolute truth has been defined in this particular verse. And I have color coded each of these aspects, you will see. So in total, 7 aspects of absolute truth has been described in this particular verse. And I have divided this verse in different colors. And these are 9 colors. You will see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And we will study these 9 aspects separately in the next slide. And then in the next slide, you will see that how I will summarize these nine various aspects into 7 defining characteristics of the absolute truth. So total 7 defining characteristics of absolute truth has been mentioned in this particular verse. And let us see, go one by one, how these characteristics evolve and emerge from this particular verse. So it's pretty elaborate slide, but I have divided this slide into 9 sections as I mentioned in the previous one. So Janma Yasyato Anvayadi Tarata Chartheshvabhigya Swarat. Like that, you will see each of those lines of the very first verse are now divided into 9 different sections, 9 small subparts. It has been described. And we will try to understand and go a little bit into the detail of what each of these sections mention in this very first verse. So, Janmadyasya yato, Janmadyasya yato. So the word Janma Adi, Janmadi, Janma means birth, Adi means etc. So etc. includes what? Creation. Creation means birth, maintenance, and destruction. So creation, maintenance, and destruction of all the universes. So Janmadi Yassa Yato. Yato means though that absolute truth which is the primeval cause of all causes. Primeval cause of all causes. Primeval cause of all causes means beyond that there is no other cause. As I mentioned, absolute truth means which is independent, which is not dependent on any other thing. So the absolute truth, which is Lord Sri Krishna, is not dependent on any other cause. So Janmadi Yasya Yato. So Lord Krishna is the primeval cause of all causes of creation, and not only creation, not only Janma, but maintenance and destruction. Like you might have heard, we have three personalities: Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. So Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer, and the Lord Shiva is the destroyer. So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, these are actually known as the Gun avatars. Gun avatars of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Gun avatar means creation. Creation comes from Rajoguna. Maintenance comes from Sattva Guna. And destruction comes from Tamoguna. So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, who are the presiding deities of respectively Rajoguna, Sattva-guna, and Tamoguna, they are creating, they are maintaining, and they are destroying. Actually, all of these three deities, three guna avatars, are coming from where? They are coming from Lord Krishna himself. That is why Janmadyasya yato, primeval cause of all causes of creation, maintenance, and destruction of universes. Who is that person? That person is actually Lord Shri Krishna. Then Anvayad itaratas chartheshva abhigya. Abhigya means knower. Is the he knows. He is the cognizant person. He knows everything. Anvayad itaratas chartheshva abhigya. Directly and indirectly conscious of all the manifestations. Directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. Now, if you read Srila Prabhupada's purport, Srila Prabhupada has given an elaborate purport to this very first verse. He has given his purport, which is spread over 14 paragraphs and runs across, I think, 8 or 9 pages. So, a very elaborate purport has been given. So, need not be intimidated, need not be disheartened that you have to study so many long number of pages. Just focus on the explanation that I am giving to you. If you try to understand the explanation in the class, then reading the purport will become even much more easier. You will be able to digest that purport very easily. So need not worry about it. But in that purport, Srila Prabhupada gives a analogy. He gives an analogy of a chief engineer or a chief architect. So like in any project which is related to machinery or engineering or maybe building construction, there is an architect involved, the chief architect involved. So the chief architect is involved in the planning of the building, but the chief architect may not be involved in each and every aspect of the construction of the building. So in some aspect of the building, maybe the laborers are involved, maybe there are some other people who are involved in some other aspect of the building, but the chief architect is involved in the whole project, either directly or indirectly. Either directly or indirectly. Similarly, the absolute truth, which is whom? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, who is none other than Lord Krishna himself. He is directly or indirectly conscious of all the manifestations. He understands all the manifestations, either directly or indirectly. Indirectly, example can be given of various demigods, various devatas. Like for example, Lord Indra is the in charge of heavens, or maybe there is wind god. There is there are many other demigods. Like for example, Surya Dev. Surya Dev is in charge of enlightening the whole universe, like that. So directly or indirectly. So directly he is involved in this creation, but directly, indirectly also through the agencies of demigods, he is knowing, he knows, he is conscious of all the manifestations. Swarat. Swarat means he is fully independent. He is fully independent. He is not dependent on anything. Now, an example of, as given by Srila Prabhupada in his purport, is the example of scientists. So, a scientist in his laboratory may use hydrogen and oxygen to create water, H2O. But is scientist Swarat, is scientist independent? No. Why he is not independent? Because although he has created water, H2O, but he used the raw materials hydrogen and oxygen, which he has not created. He has used hydrogen and oxygen as raw material to create water, but who has created hydrogen and oxygen? Hydrogen and oxygen has been created by the absolute truth. And using these resources of hydrogen and oxygen created by absolute truth, the scientist has created water. So the scientist is not an independent living entity, but the absolute truth is Swarat. He is the fully independent living entity. He has actually created uh, 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 everything. He is not dependent on creating everything in the universe. He is completely independent. He creates that out of his own sweet will. He has not to take permission, or he has not to take use of raw material by other living entities to create anything. So he is fully independent. So that is the definition of fully independent. Then Tene Brahma Hrida Adi Kavaye. Tene Brahma Hrida Adi Kavaye. What does it mean? Adi Kavaye. Adi Kavaye means Lord Brahma. Hrida means in the heart. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. So first imparted Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji. So how did it all happen? It happened like this, that Lord Vishnu, who was also an expansion of Lord Krishna, expansion of Lord Krishna. From this Lord Vishnu's navel, a lotus emerges. And in this lotus, Lord Brahma takes birth. So actually Lord Vishnu is the father of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma was bewildered. He was not knowing what to do. I am the only person. I don't see anyone else in this universe. Now, from within the heart of Lord Brahma, Tene Brahma Hrida Ya Adi Kavaye. So first imparted this Vedic knowledge into the heart of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma meditated upon this, on the Supreme Being. And after this meditation, this Supreme Being, this Lord Vishnu, actually imparted this Vedic knowledge through the heart of the Lord Brahma, like this. So first imparted Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahma. Tene Brahma Hrida Ya Adi Kaviye. Then Muhyanti Yat Surya. Muhyanti Yat Surya. Muhyanti Yat Surya means great personalities, sages, demigods, Suris, so Surya. Even great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. Muhyanti means illusion. Now, why it is said that great demigods and sages are placed into illusion? Because they come from the Lord, because they come from the absolute truth. Now, for example, if a child is born from a parent, how will the child know about the parent? Only if the parent tells the child that I am your parent, the child cannot know who is my parent. Child on his own endeavor cannot know who, from where he is coming from. And that is why it is mentioned Muhyanti Yat Surya. Muhyanti means great sages and demigods are bewildered. They don't know, they are illusion from where they are coming. And they are only illusion to the point unless and until the Lord himself tells them that you are coming from me. So Muhyanti Yat Surya. Even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. We have a similar verse in the 10th chapter, second verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which also mentions something very similar, where Lord Krishna says, Namay viduhu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshaya Aham adir hi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasha. Name vidu surgana. The surgana, the devatas, the maharshas, the maharshis cannot know me. Aham adir hi devanam. I am actually the father of the devatas. I am actually the father of the maharshis. So the maharshis and the devatas, the sages and the devatas, the demigods cannot know the supreme lord. They are always under illusion. And how are they under illusion? Tejo vari mridam yatha. Tejo vari mridam yatha. Tejo means fire, vari means water, mridam means earth, mitti, sand. Tejo vari mridam yatha. As one is bewildered by the illusory representation of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Land seen on water. So, what is the example of land seen on water or water seen on land? Sometimes when you see when there is a very hot day, you might have heard about this word called mirage. In Hindi, we call it marichika, mirage. So when on a very hot day, when we are going in a desert, there is sand everywhere, there is land everywhere. But sometimes on land, because of very heat, we feel that there is water. Similarly, sometimes when we see fire, around fire we see there are some flimsy appearances, and it appears like water. So something very similar it is mentioned here. Tejo vari mridamita. Muhyanti yat surya. Muhyanti means how these great demigods and sages are placed into illusion. They are placed into illusion in a very similar way like we as living entities are placed into illusion when we see mirage or when we see mrag marichika. Tejo vari mridam yatha. Yatha means like that, as an example. Like you see bewildered various images in Tejo vari mridam. Similarly, Surya, similarly, these demigods are bewildered. Then, Vinimayo yatra tisargo amrisha. Vinimayo yatra trisargo amrisha. Trisargo means the three gunas. Sattva guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. Sargo means creation. Three Sargo. So what happens is that whole universe that we see around us, whole creation, this material creation that we see around us is made up of Rajoguna, Sattva-guna, and Tamoguna. This is the combination, Vinimayo. Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Amrisha. So this material manifestation that we see, this whole creation that we see around us, it appears so real. It appears so real. However, this is only temporary. This material manifestation, which is a combination of sattva, rajas, and tamas. We studied all this in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. How this material creation is a combination of sattva guna, rajogun, and tamogun. But this material creation appears so factual, appears so real. However, in reality, it is temporary only. It is not. It is very temporary. But on the contrary, this absolute truth. So this, because of him, temporary material universes appear factual. Now, what is the role of absolute truth in this particular thing, in the creation of this creation? The role of this absolute truth is that this material creation appear factual, but actually it is temporary. And how it appear factual? It is appearing factual only because of the absolute truth, because of the Maya potency. Because of the Maya potency of absolute truth, it appears as temporary. It appears as factual. However, in reality, it is temporary. So we see the whole creation, which appears very, very real, but it is temporary only. And how it is appearing to us real? It is appearing real to us only because absolute truth is bewildering us through his Maya potency. He is confusing us. He is deviating us. He is making us go off track because of this Maya. Then dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhukam. So although this absolute truth creates all this Maya, all this external world, external creation, but he is himself eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusion. So he himself is based in his own spiritual abode. So like that, there's a contrast. So he creates something which is temporary, but he stays himself in something which is permanent. Dhamna swena. Dhamna means abode. Swena sada nirasta kuhukam, which is free from illusion. Nirasta kuhukam means which is free from illusion. So the temporary manifestation is illusory, but his own permanent transcendental abode is free from illusion. And unto that Satyam Param Dhimahi, unto that absolute truth, actually I meditate upon. So here you can see in this particular, in this last line, the meditation aspect comes. This is the invocation. Satyam Param. Satyam Param means absolute truth. Satyam means truth, Param means absolute, which is independent, which is the primeval cause, which is cognizant of everything, which is the enlightener of Lord Brahma, which is the bewilderer, which is the bewilderer, who is the bewilderer, and then who creates illusion, like that. So there are multiple aspects of the absolute truth which is given here. So I would urge the devotees who are actually serious in studying Srimad Bhagavatam that memorize this particular verse. So once you memorize this particular verse, you will remember all these 7 aspects of the absolute truth. Now in this next slide, I have summarized the previous slide into 7 uh, into 7 aspects, characteristics of the absolute truth. And you will see here, Janmadhyasya Yato means he is the primeval cause. Anvayat itaratas charthishva abhigya is cognizant. He knows everything, like the chief engineer. He knows everything. Swarat, he is independent. He is not dependent on anything for creation, for maintenance, for destruction. He can do it out of his own sweet will. He is unlike that scientist who, for his creation, is dependent always on something from the material nature. And that material nature actually comes from the absolute truth. He is independent. Tene Brahma Hridayadi Kaviya. He is the enlightener. Muhyanti Yat Surya Tejo Vari Mridamita. He is the bewilderer. He creates this material existence which appears factual, however, it is temporary. And he bewilders through his Maya potency. Minimayo Yatra Tisargo Umrisha. He is actually the factual basis. He is actually the factual basis of this whole creation. And then Dhamna Swena Sada Nirasta Kuhukam. Dhamna Swena Sada Nirasta Kuhukam Satyam Param Dhimahi. So to that absolute truth, I meditate upon Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and he is that absolute truth. He is residing in his eternal abode, which is free from illusion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these are the 7 characteristics of absolute truth. So like that, this is the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, which might appear a bit philosophical, which might appear a bit technical, but it is very relishable. Now, if you read those 8-9 pages of purport by Srila Prabhupada, I'm sure you are going to understand each and every paragraph if you study that in the light of the class that we have just explained to you, the explanation that we have just given to you. Now, moving to the verse number 2 and verse number 3. In verse number 2 and verse number 3, you will see in verse number 2, greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam is presented, and in verse number 3, sweetness of Srimad Bhagavatam is presented. Let us look at these. Like similarly, the previous verse, you will see the color coding, and this verse is also in Shardul Vikridatam, 17 syllable, 10 plus 7. So this is 10 syllable, this is 7 syllable, like that. So you now know already how this is arranged. So I will not go into the detail of those. I will straight away start reciting the verse for you. It is about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, it defines 7 glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayo unmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimba Parairishvara Sadyo Hridya Vrudhyate Kritibhi Shushrubhistachana. Like that. So this is first line, second line, third line, and fourth line. And I have color coded this. So each of these color coded phrases small sections. We will understand separately each one at a time, and then we will know how Srimad Bhagavatam has been glorified in this particular verse. Dharma projita kaitavotra. So before we move to the uh, detailed glorification or detailed understanding of this verse, you will notice that the word atra, kaitavo atra, the word atra here in this book, in this book, in this book has been mentioned 3 times. Dharma projita kaitavo atra, vedyam vastavam atra vastu, sadyo hridi avruddhate atra kritibhi. So the speaker, or sorry, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam is saying that in this book you will see this, in this book you will notice this, in this book you will find this. So it is all about summarizing what content you are going to find in this book. So atra, atra, and atra. 3 times it is being mentioned. Let us see in detail. Dharma projita kaitavo. Kaitavo means cheating. Dharma. Projita. Projita means rejected. Uh, Jita means rejected. Projita means strongly rejected. Kicked out. Strongly kicked out. Dharma. Dharma projita kaitavo. So it says completely rejects materially motivated religion, or the word kaitav means cheating. So it can also mean completely rejects cheating religion. Cheating religion. Dharma projita kaitavo atra. So I have removed atra here. What it says that in this book, dharma projita kaitavo. So those religions which are materially motivated have been completely rejected. Now you might wonder, dharma actually is a very nice thing. And how can someone reject dharma? But dharma, we can understand, has various shades, various grades. Like for example, you might have heard about 4 purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So when we say completely rejecting materially motivated religion, we are talking about those aspects of religion which are actually uh, performed, which are actually practiced mainly for material gains. Material gains. Like for example, many times we worship demigods. Why do we worship demigods? For getting some good health, for getting promotion, for getting a better future, for getting a better spouse, etc. etc. So these are materially motivated religion. And most of the people of this world, most of the people in this world get attracted to dharma mainly for material benefit, mainly for artha. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So the people of this world come to the dharma platform mainly to facilitate their life with artha. Artha means economic development. And why do they want economic development? They want economic development because they want to satisfy kama, their desires. And when their desires are not fulfilled, even after doing lot of sense gratification, lot of fulfilling of their desire, they still feel unsatisfied. And then because of this unsatisfaction, they move towards moksha. So dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So the word dharma actually sometimes means intrinsic characteristic. Like we say, the dharma of water is cooling, the dharma of fire is heating. But dharma also actually mentions to something, a code, or a set of rules. Like for example, kshatriya has a particular dharma, a vaishya, a businessman, has a particular dharma, a cricketer has a particular dharma, and then maybe a laborer has a particular dharma. So like that, so it is mentioned here, dharma projita kaitavo. So Srimad Bhagavatam completely rejects materially motivated religion. And what does it do? Paramo. What does it do? It do paramo. Paramo means it propounds the highest truth. It establishes the highest dharma. And what is that highest dharma? That highest dharma is actually the bhakti of the Supreme Lord. Sa vai pumsa paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje ahayatuki apratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. So this verse comes in the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sa vai pumsa parmo. So the word parmo and parodharmo. What is that parodharmo? Parodharmo is sa vai pumsa parodharmo yati bhakti radhokshaja. Bhakti of Adhokshaj. Adhokshaj is another name of Lord Krishna. So that is the Param Dharam. So it propounds highest truth. Then Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam. Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam means for whom this subject matter is meant for. This subject matter is meant for devotees who are pure in heart, or at least pure in intention. They don't have any ulterior motives. Their motive is pure. Their motive is mainly to progress towards the lotus feet of the Lord. Huh? So Nirmatsaram. Nirmatsaranam means unenvious, non-envious. Satam. Satam means those pious people. Vedyam. Vedyam means understandable. It is understandable by devotees who are pure in heart, non-envious. And then what it means next, Vastavam. Vastavam Vastu Shivadam. Vastavam Vastu means actually it gives you the right thing, it gives you the real thing. It doesn't give you the cheating thing. See, when we say we are cheated, what does it mean? We were promised something and we are given something else. So if we are promised mango and we are given maybe something which is very non-valuable, which is maybe something, maybe we are given some dust. We were promised for mango, but we were given some dirt, so we feel cheated. So vastavam vastu, so it doesn't cheat you, it gives you the real thing, and that real thing is the bhakti of the Lord. Shivadam means that real thing. What is the nature of that real thing? That nature of the real thing is for the welfare of all. Shiva means auspicious, and the means giver. Shivadam, giver of auspiciousness. So this Vastavam Vastu will actually bring welfare to everyone. Tapatrayo unmoolanam. Tapatrayo unmoolanam. Tapa means miseries. Trayo means three. Ulmoolanam means uprooting. Moola means root. Unmoolanam means uprooting. So uprooting the threefold miseries. And what are those threefold miseries? Those threefold miseries are Adhyatmik Klesh, Adi Bhautik Klesh, and Adi Daivik Klesh. Adhyatmik Klesh means the miseries that we receive because of our body and our mind. Adi Bhautik Klesh means miseries that we receive from other living entities, mosquitoes, and maybe other relatives or other people. Adi Daivik Klesh means miseries that we receive from nature, like tsunamis, like rains, floods, etc. etc. So Tapatrayo Unmoolanam. Tapatrayo Unmoolanam means because when we study Srimad Bhagavatam, we feel so satisfied, when we feel so satisfied in our heart, that when all these miseries actually come in our life, we don't feel the pain of these miseries. Like for example, when we are very happy in our life, for example, we receive a very good promotion in our job, or a boy or a girl or a student has received very good marks in their class, they will be naturally very very happy. Now in that state of happiness, if somebody make some obscene remark to them, bring some hurt, or try to hurt them, but because the happiness is so great, we don't feel that hurt. Similarly, in Srimad Bhagavatam, when we read the pastimes of the Lord, beautiful, nourishing, relishable, nectarian pastimes of the Lord, we feel so much satisfied from inside. So when these kind of miseries come in our life, because we are so much satisfied hearing those pastimes of the Lord, we are so happy hearing those pastimes of the Lord, these miseries seem like very insignificant. These miseries seem very, very insignificant. So the tapa becomes like kripa. We start to see that this tapa that has come into our life is actually the kripa of the Lord. It is actually the mercy of the Lord. So when the tapa has been converted into kripa, then where is the tapa? There is no tapa. So that is Tapatrayo Unmoolanam. And then Mahamuni Krite. Mahamuni Krite means this has been compiled by Srila Vyasadev himself. In its maturity means, as I explained you short while ago, the Srimad Bhagavatam has been written by Srila Vyasadev after he has compiled all the Vedic literature. So when he has very mature, he was very mature as an author. That's where he compiled Srimad Bhagavatam on the instruction of his own spiritual master. Because Vyasadev was dissatisfied after compiling all the Vedic literature. So his guru, Narad Muni, instructed him, because you have not glorified Supreme Lord Krishna fully, that is why you are feeling unsatisfied. So it has been compiled by Vyasadev in its maturity. Kimva Parair. Kimva Parair means once we have Srimad Bhagavatam in our life, then what is the need of any other scripture? Bhagavatam is complete. Bhagavatam is fully giving the science of the absolute truth, and it is completely satisfying to the heart. It is full in its own glory. So why do we need any other scripture? Ishvara Sadyo Hridi Avruddhyate. So Ishvara means the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Controller. Sadyo, completely, at once. Sadyo means very fast. Hridi means in the heart. Avruddhyate means established. The Supreme Lord is established within the heart at once. Ishvara Sadyo Hridi Avruddhyate. So when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna enters into our heart. What does it mean? We develop love for Lord Krishna in our heart immediately, very quickly. And then Kritibhi Sushrubhis Tatchanat. Kritibhi means hearing from the pious people, hearing from the devotees of Lord Krishna. Shushrubhish. Shushrubi means hearing Srimad Bhagavatam with a humble attitude, Shushrubhis Tatchana. So as soon as one attentively and submissively, Shushrubhis means attentively and submissively hears Bhagavatam, then immediately Lord Krishna is established within the heart. So you will see, like in the previous verse, I have summarized everything in 7 points. Similarly, in this verse, you will see 7 characteristics of Srimad Bhagavatam has been summarized in this slide. It rejects cheating religion. It propounds the highest truth, bhakti of the Lord. It is understandable only by non-envious. It distinguishes reality from illusion. It uproots the threefold miseries. It is sufficient for God realization, and it establishes the Lord in the heart. So you can see how studying these 2 verses we can understand the depth of the meaning of these verses. Now I have given you some points from the purport. These points are 3 paths which are mentioned in the Vedas, and these 3 paths, as you will see, as you can read from the purport, these 3 paths are fruitive activities to gain promotion to better planets, worshipping different demigods for promotion to the other planets, and involve realizing the absolute truth in its impersonal feature. Impersonal feature means nirakar, that the absolute truth is impersonal. So these are the 3 different paths that are mentioned in the Vedas. But Bhagavatam mentions that all these 3 paths are actually cheating religion. These are not the real thing. These are not the Vastavam Vastu. So you will see in purport of this verse, Srila Prabhupada mentions these 3 paths. Then superiority of Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is superior because it is giving you the substance or the root of all categories. Root of all categories, what are these different categories? Karma Kanda, then Gyan Kanda, and then Upasana Kanda. So Karma Kanda means fruitive activities, Upasana Kanda means worshipping the Devatas, and Gyan Kanda means trying to merge into the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. So Srimad Bhagavatam is superior because it aims only at the supreme truth, only the Param Satya, only the Supreme Lord Krishna. That is the Param goal of Bhagavatam, and that is why it is superior. It rejects all other categories. Rather, it says that it is actually the substance of all these categories. Then it was mentioned that it can be understood only by non-envious. So in his purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the 3 degrees of non-enviousness. What are the 3 degrees of non-enviousness? The transcendental devotees of the Lord are not only free from material envy, but are well-wishers to everyone and establish a competition-less society with God in the center. So the devotees are non-envious in their nature, which means when they see somebody superior to them, they don't envy them. Not only they don't envy the others, but also the devotees are well wisher to everyone. Not only they are non-envious by themselves, rather they go one step higher. They work for the benefit of others. That is means well wisher of others. And the third level of non-enviousness, which is higher level or the topmost level, is that not only they help others uh, uh, every time in their life, but rather they want to make everyone like that, and based on God in the center, based on the bhakti of the Lord in the center. And what is the proper attitude of hearing Bhagavatam? The proper attitude of hearing Bhagavatam is to hear it submissively. We should not have a challenging attitude, because that will not help us realizing this transcendental message. So this is purport number 2, purport for verse number 2. Now I will quickly take you through verse number 3 of this particular chapter. This is not on Shardul Vikridat. This is actually Trishtuk Chand, which is 12 syllables. So you will see how I am going to recite this. Nigama kalpataror kalitam phalam shukmukhat amrat drav samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. Let us see each of these lines of this verse. Nigam kalpataror galitam phalam. So it is this particular verse, the subject matter is invitation to relish Srimad Bhagavatam. It is inviting the reader to relish Srimad Bhagavatam, to taste, to enjoy Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, Nigam Kalpataror. Kalpataror means desire tree, and Nigam means Vedas. So Srimad Bhagavatam actually is the desire tree known as the Vedas. Why Vedas has been mentioned as desire tree? Because Vedas give subject matter for all aspects of life. Vedas give teachings how to satisfy our material needs. Vedas also give teachings how to satisfy our spiritual needs. So that is why Vedas are known as Kalpataror, desire tree. Nigam Kalpataror. But Srimad Bhagavatam is a special type of Vedic literature. Galitam Phalam. It is the ripened fruit of the Vedas. So it gives us the most tasty part of the Vedas, and that tasty part actually is the sweet bhakti of the Supreme Lord. So it is ripened fruit of Vedic desire tree. Like in the previous verse, it says it rejects all the other cheating religion. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit, the most sweetest fruit. Nigam kalpataror galitam phalam. Shuk mukhad. Shuk mukhad. Shuk mukhad means it is emanating from the Shukdev Goswami's lips, and it has become even sweeter because it is coming from Shukdev Goswami's lotus lips. What does it mean? Shukdev Goswami. So Shukdev Goswami is like a parrot. In the spiritual world, Shukdev Goswami is actually parrot of Srimati Radharani. So when the parrot pecks the fruit, it creates a hole in the fruit. It tries to taste the fruit. Then after that, when we taste the fruit, that particular fruit which has been previously tasted by a parrot, that fruit actually becomes even more sweeter. What does it mean? It means that Srimad Bhagavatam is sweet. Srimad Bhagavatam is sweet, but when it is narrated, when it is mixed with the love of Shukdev Goswami, with the devotional love of Shukdev Goswami, it becomes even more sweeter. So Shuk Mukhad. Then Amrat Drav Samyutam. Amrat Drav Samyutam. Samyutam means perfect. It's Amrat. Amrat means nectarian. Its nectarian juice is perfect in all aspects. Its nectarian juice is perfect in all aspects. That is why it is known as Amrit Drav Samyutam. Why it is perfect? Because it gives you the perfect knowledge of the absolute truth. Without any ill motives, without any useless part. It gives you uh, the right essence of the Vedic literature. That is why it is known as perfect. Amrit Drav Samyutam. Then Pibat Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam. Pibat Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam. So here you will see Pibat. Now it is a fruit. The fruit is to be eaten. But here it is mentioned as Pibat. Pibat means drink. Now, do you drink fruit or do you eat fruit? We actually eat fruit. But why it is mentioned as Pibat? Because it is so easy to digest. It is so easy to assimilate. That is why it is known as Pibat. It is actually juice. It is in the form of a liquid. Yeah? Drav. Drav means liquid. So Drav Pibat. Drav has to be Pibat. Although it is a fruit, but it is fruit liquid. And Samyutam. Samyutam means perfect. Perfect means normally a fruit will have peels. Normally a fruit will have seeds. So we don't eat peel most of the time. If it is a banana, we don't eat peel. Sometimes with some fruits, maybe with apple, we might eat peel, but generally we don't eat peel. Then seed also we don't eat, we throw them out. But Bhagavatam is a fruit which is perfect, which doesn't have a peel or seeds. What does it mean not having a peel or seed? Means it does not propound the philosophy of Karma Kanda or philosophy of Jnana Kanda or Upasana Kanda. It does not have all that cheating religion in it. It is completely pure, completely nectarian juice filled with the sweetness of the bhakti of the Lord. So, muhur means drink again and again. So it is inviting the reader of Srimad Bhagavatam to drink again and again, every day, every moment, drink again and again, this nectarian juice, relishable for everyone. Pibat Bhagavatam Rasam. Rasam means juice. Alayam. Rasam also means, like we have studied in detail in Bhakti Samrat Sindhu, there is rasa. Rasa means things that we enjoy. Like in every relationship, we feel some taste. Like a husband and wife relationship, a friendship relationship, or a servant and a master relationship. So in every relationship, there is some joy, there is some enjoyment. But this particular book gives you a special rasa. Rasam alayam. Alayam means which is relishable for all. And this particular rasa is no ordinary rasa. This rasa is the rasa of the bhakti of the Supreme Lord. And this bhakti of the Supreme Lord has a special characteristic. The rasa which we find, the taste or the pleasures that we find in this material world is destructible. It is perverted. It is contaminated. But the rasa of the Supreme Lord, the bhakti of the Supreme Lord, it is nectarian. It is relishable. It is eternal. It grows with movement. Every moment it grows like that. Vibhata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam Muhur. Again and again. And then the last line you see is the invitation call. Aho, Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. Oh, Rasika. Oh, expert and thoughtful men. Oh, expert and thoughtful men, come, drink again and again this nectarian juice, which is relishable for all. It has come from Shukdev Goswami. It has become even sweeter because Shukdev Goswami is narrating it, and it is the ripened fruit. You don't have to go here and there. It is the essence of the Vedic tree. The fruit is the most sweetest part of a tree. So it is the ripened fruit of the Vedic tree. So like that, you can see how tastefully, how nicely Srimad Bhagavatam, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, is inviting us to relish its nectar. Here are concluding part. We are coming to the conclusion of our slides. Here you will see that in the purport of in this verse, there are few additional points where Srila Prabhupada is asking us to refrain hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from business-minded people. Business-minded people means Srimad Bhagavatam has to be understood from people who are devotees of the Lord, and they are trying to enjoy the fruit of the word of Srimad Bhagavatam, the meaning of each and every word of Srimad Bhagavatam out of their devotion. But there are some people who narrate this Srimad Bhagavatam because of business, because they want to earn some money. So we should refrain hearing Bhagavatam from people who are vyavasai buddhi, business minded people. Such men business is only to earn their livelihood. Then mistake by professional reciters. So why we should refrain from these business minded people or professional reciters of Bhagavatam? Because they don't develop the subject matter of Bhagavatam in a gradual way, starting from chapter 1, verse 1, all the way going to the 10th canto, where Ras Leela pastime, the topmost understanding of the love of a devotee and the absolute truth, Lord Krishna. So they usually plunge into the subject matter of Ras dance, which is misunderstood by the foolish class of men. Some of them take this to be immoral, while others try to cover it up by their own stupid interpretations. So Ras dance is actual, Ras dance is factual, but some people try to explain it as immoral, and sometimes some people say that no, different meanings they try to derive out of it, but they try to cover it up by their own stupid interpretations. So we have tried to understood this the meaning of Ras dance or Madhurya Bhakti in our classes of Bhakti Samrat Sindhu. Those who are interested in the subject matter of Bhakti Samrat Sindhu can actually go back to YouTube video where we have kept our recordings of Bhakti Samrat Sindhu also. So like that, we conclude our class for today with these first three very beautiful verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And now we actually open the class for any comments, any questions, or any takeaways. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Dandavat.
Dandavat, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Vasudev Sutam Devam Kansuchanurmardana Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. As usual, excellent Guruji, complicated, but I got the meaning one. Out of all this, Krishna is the only supreme. Everything starts from him and ends with him. And
Correct.
see all the 12 points, all the guns, they depict his body. Yes. Starting from his feet to legs, to navel, to chest, to two arms, throat, and the. So, it's so easy to understand if we understand the Krishna's body. So, he makes things so simple. So, and more so, over and above that, you make it more simple, which is really very, for the first time, because I'm encountering and I'm listening Bhagavatam, because in my life, so far, I never heard. I always thought they are synonyms, Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So my concept was absolutely wrong till before you started the class. So I heard that, one clip sent by some nice devotee to me that Bhagavad Gita is what Krishna says and Bhagavatam is what Lord Krishna did. So that makes the life so easier.
Bhagavatam is about Lord Krishna, is the subject matter of Bhagavatam. Yeah. So which includes also the activities he did, which also includes the activities he did. So that is something which you can understand it like that. Yeah.
That's what the clip summarized to me, that there what he said and here what he did. So, but what you are saying is absolutely same thing. Same thing. And this really seems we will enjoy this difficult part, but and then really revising today, Rajogun is the creator and Satogun is the sustainer or the maintainer, and Tamagun is the destroyer of the evil, And really, thanks to you, Guruji, and really all you make so simple dharma with dominated, artha or with devotion towards Krishna. If most of us, we do dharma to find artha, the money, the material, but if we do dharma for dharma, and to protect Dharma, it will be really the aim of life, and
Yes, Prabhu.
we will be in the Supreme
Okay.
Lord's abode,
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. So, others also, do you have any comments,
Hare Krishna.
remarks, any anything that you would like to share after hearing the class? Was it very difficult? Do you find it very, digestible? I think the first verse was a little philosophical, but the second and third were relatively much easier, I would say. So, any other comments by any other participants here, devotees?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji,
Yes, Ishwar Prabhu.
very wonderful class, a very good beginning, and we are definitely feel aligned to what you say, what you have said already. Thank you very much indeed.
You feel excited for the coming classes?
Yes, certainly.
Okay,
Most certainly.
very nice.
Thank
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so that was very nice feedback from both Kartarji and Ishwar Prabhu. I think it is 7:30 already. It's a little, we overshoot it with our stipulated time by 30 minutes. Not a good planning as a presenter, but I thought that let me complete it. If somebody want to leave at 7, they could actually catch up by listening to the recording. I did not want to miss completing the first three verses today. So anyway, thank you very much for all those devotees who stayed back. I really appreciate your patience and enthusiasm to learn Srimad Bhagavatam. I would sincerely urge, request that you go through the purports by Srila Prabhupada in the book. Also, if you can possibly purchase Bhagavatam Subodhini and try to go through Bhagavatam Subodhini as well. And like that, if you can give a little more time, not only in the class but post class also, that will really increase our relishment for this particular book, and it will be very very easy and quick. We can make spiritual progress. So with that, I would like to conclude the session today. You can always send your comments on WhatsApp and queries, questions on WhatsApp, which I will be very happy to answer. So with that, thanks a lot. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Rakesh ji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Mother.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you.